name is Danielle Swisher, and I am the author of The Adventures of Travis and Asrid series. Currently out right now is the first book called The Europe Blogs. And today I'm going to talk with you about one of the major characters in the book, whose name is Asrid Lotick. Okay, so who is Asrid Lotick, and why is she such an important character that her name is not only included in the title, but also too that I would do a character profile on her today? Well, here's why. When I first came up with the idea of the adventures of Travis and Asrid, I was trying to figure out at the time. The book series was initially going to be called The Backpackers. And when I was going to call it The Backpackers, I was trying to figure out how to focus on it, how to tell his story, but also to how to capture the backpacking culture that I encountered when I was in Europe, and that I was aware of, that was also prevalent all over the world. So for those of you unfamiliar with the backpacking culture, it's very common for people of all ages, from adolescence to late adulthood. But normally it's associated with the young, and this practice has just become more and more common as time has come by. But anyways, Travis McGivney was a very simple character to come up with because, as I stated in my earlier character profile on my YouTube channel, which you can see, of course, on here, is that Travis McGivney is inspired. He's inspired by several different people that I encounter in my life, but in particular, two young men that were from Edinburgh, Scotland, that I encountered at a hostel that I was staying at in Krakow, Poland, between September and October 2006. These two men, they were mechanics. They had basically taken a year off, and they were traveling through Europe together. And they were very similar to some of the traits that I featured in Travis. Like, for example, I remember the entire night when I first met them, they were drinking. They were very they had kind of an arrogance about them. They were very proud of their heritage, which Travis definitely has that. And that is most people that I've met from Scotland, but most people that I've met in my travels are proud of their heritage anyways, but these guys were just very explicit about it. Also too, the characters, they were these two gentlemen from Edinburgh, they were looking for excitement in their lives. They were looking for they were looking for a lot of the same things that Travis was. However, the womanizing thing actually came from some just various backpackers, male backpackers that I met through my life, and various international men that I've met, but also too some American men. Most of them unhappy for me, but the great thing about being a writer is that, well, you can get that frustration out in fiction and get it out of your life and put it on a fictional character. Anyways, where did Asrid come from? Well, I was thinking back to a lot of the real people that I had met while I was studying abroad in France, and a lot of the international people I had met through my life. And one of the first people that came to mind was a Norwegian friend. Her name was Miriam. I had met her when I was studying abroad in Dijon. And, she, at the time, she was learning French. She was getting ready to go study at the University of Strasbourg. And, I just remembered how intelligent and articulate she was, um, how friendly she was. Um, and then I also remembered some of the Swedish girls that there were 2 or 3 Swedish girls that I used to hang out with when I was in Aix-en-Provence in early 2007. Well, the first 5 months of 2007, I should say. And that's basically where Asrid's nationality came from. I thought about Miriam and I thought about these Swedish girls that I had met, and I thought, well, why not have why not have another character, have a female character, in order to give the feminine experience of what it's like to backpack. While Travis is the stereotypical young male backpacker that you often encounter when you're in a hostel. Of course, that's just my opinion, but and that was what I was trying to accomplish. If you want to argue about it, I mean, that's your business. But anyways, I figured this could give a very balanced representation of what the backpacking culture is like from an artistic perspective. Now, many of you are probably wondering, why did I make Asrid vegan and a lesbian? First and foremost, I made her a lesbian basically because I wanted to demonstrate. I want to do something unusual that hasn't really been done in literature before, and that is put a man and woman together as main characters in a story and them not have a romantic association with one another. Just basically to demonstrate that, as is known in real life, that just because men and women associate with one another doesn't mean they have to have any sort of sexual interaction with one another. And I figured that would be easier with a lesbian. But also, too, I know I myself have a lot of homosexual and lesbian friends and co-workers that I've had over the years. I myself am heterosexual. However, I know what my friends and my co-workers have gone through as a political scientist. I am aware of a lot of the rights issues that homosexuals and lesbians and transgender individuals and bisexuals have experienced around the world. And so this was another effort to try, I figured, try and paint a more realistic picture of what it's like to be a lesbian. And I'm just doing this in order to hope, even though I'm heterosexual, I figured that with the fact that I'm heterosexual writing about a lesbian, that maybe it will shed some light that that just because someone has a different sexual orientation from you doesn't mean they're inhuman, doesn't mean that they're bad. They're just different from you. And just respect the differences and just realize, these people, that's their life. So when they have a right to live the way they want to. So basically, that was another aspect of making her a lesbian. Um, Another reason was because I also wanted to make a statement um, about the sexual culture right now with people my age. I'm not really condoning it, but one thing that I, all that all that I meant, all that I'm making an observation of in this book is the fact that um, the 21st century is a very sexually polarized culture, and while there's nothing wrong with it, I mean, this is part of being human. Part of being alive. Men and women have urges. You know, you follow through with it. Yeah, but what I'm trying to demonstrate in the book is that either extreme, um, especially done with thoughts of the self rather than the individual, than you as the individual and the one that you're interacting with sexually and the community around you, what your sexual actions are, how they're impacting people, and what kind of message you're really sending across to yourself and to other people, um, and the kind of society that you're building when it's at, especially in extreme. So that's all I'm really trying to um, demonstrate as well. Um, so it's just basically an observation. I'm not really saying it's good or bad or anything. It's just an observation, and um, and I'm just portraying in this way so that to give society a chance to kind of look back and think about you know a lot of the role that sexuality has been starting to play um, in our lives, and what that has to do with men and women and people of different sexual orientations, and just make you think a little bit rather than just you know just focusing on the fact, oh, there's that's how these people live, and that's it, which anyways. So you're also probably wondering why Asrid is vegan. Well, I have a really good friend who is vegan. She used to be an omnivore, but she changed her mind. She decided she went vegetarian, and then she went vegan, and so that's kind of where Astrid comes in. Um, and this was also just another attempt to kind of show, that just because people have different lifestyles and different likes doesn't mean that they're evil aliens out there. They're just people. They're just people, just like just like you or me or anyone. Um, and so therefore, these labels are just labels. That's just basically the main point that I'm just trying to raise in this book, is that these social labels are labels, they're words. Um, they don't really accurately describe or really categorize what a person is. Just trying to show that people are people, no matter what their gender or race or sexual orientation or whatever is. Um, and so, what makes Asrid's significance is that, as you can probably note, and if you've read the book, you probably, and also too, if you've seen my YouTube episode on Travis McGivney's the character profile I did of him, you would realize, yeah, one thing about Asrid Lotick is that she is the opposite of the Travis McGivney that we are introduced to in the early parts of the Europe blogs. Um, and you know, and it's not just in gender. It's basically the main difference that you see is just, it's more than just the orientation, the sexual orientation. The fact that Travis is an omnivore, primarily a meat and veg boy, while Asrid is a strict vegan, even though sometimes she does wane away because of where she travels to some places. It's hard to be a vegan sometimes um, because so many people eat meat, and especially when you're traveling as a vegan, you have to get kind of creative. Or sometimes, you know, some people bend are okay with it and some don't. I know my friend, if she can't have vegan food, I mean, she will accommodate herself and she will eat meat. So that's why Asrid sometimes does that. So it's not, she's that type of a vegan. Um she's not the animal rights sort of vegan. But anyways, um what else? Um so because of this difference in personality, lifestyle, um also to education, Astrid has a bachelor's degree in the classics from the University of Oslo, while Travis only has a secondary school degree. He's just, um, he's just pretty much been doing what his parents want him to do and whatever makes him look cool. Um, he really hasn't thought about it much about what he wants to do with his life and where he wants to go with it. Until now, with this idea of traveling abroad, um, all throughout continental Europe, he feels that this will help to formulate his life a little more. While Astrid, she knows she wants to go off to graduate school. She's not quite sure what to focus, but she knows she wants to go to graduate school. She knows she wants to work in academia. And she knows why she's doing this trip primarily. Is not necessarily to find herself, even though she does change as a person by the end of the book, as you will see. But as an individual, um, Astrid, um, she's a lot more confident than Travis, I would say. She's a lot more astute, level-headed. She's a lot more responsible. Yeah, she does like to have a good time. I mean, she likes to go out drinking and have fun with her friends. You know. Um, However, you know, because she's a lesbian vegan woman, um, she of course has problems because there are people who just don't understand her and just find her, um, they just don't get why she's the way she is. And Travis, unfortunately, is a very brutal example. When they first meet in Paris, of some of the prejudice that still exists concerning LGBT people. Um, a very tragic realization that I know when I wrote that part of the book, it was hard. I emotionally had a very hard time writing it because I just don't see the world that way. But I felt it was important to do this because of the fact that so many like Asrid in the real world are just immediately judged, immediately seen as pariahs, when all they're doing is just trying to live their lives, and they're not hurting anybody. They're just trying to find happiness and trying to find their lives. But yet other people are trying to say, oh, we have the right way and we know the right way of living, and so you have to do this or else, you might as well forget it. Well, we're all individuals, we're all people, and as Roman Catholic, I strongly support the teaching that the only one that has the right to judge is God. We as human beings, of course, we all have our own preferences and our dislikes, but we can't influence that on other people. That's not fair. That's not right. We can share our differences, but we should never enforce one person to live a certain way just because you feel that the way they live is uncivil or inhuman or wrong or disgusting. And that is one thing that's another reason why Asrid is so important, is that as a character, she really brings, just the way just because of who she is in the book, she just really brings out a lot of very deep social issues that are important right now in the 21st century, and that have been affecting society. I know, especially here in the United States, LGBT issues are hot, and it's getting a lot better, but there's still controversy. There's still in regards to gender equality and sexual orientation equality, and social representation, equal social representation. There's still a long way to go. And so I'm hoping that this book will help people to think a little bit more. But most importantly, even though I was personally trying to make this point, I also want to say that I didn't write this book for LGBT people or for people who are prejudiced against LGBT people, and I'm not trying to lecture anybody or trying to sway anybody in any direction. I'm just basically illustrating a philosophical observation that I have to society. Yes, I'm expressing some of my opinions, but I'm not expecting you to accept it. And if anything, I would encourage you actually to read this book more so for the theme of friendship. Apart from all of the social labels that are placed upon Travis McGarivey and Asrid Lotick. Just look beyond that. And that's really, I know from people who have read the book, and I've had several people who've read the book who are heterosexuals. My grandmother even read it, and she's an 83-year-old, traditional Puerto Rican Roman Catholic. And she found this story to be wonderful. She wasn't disturbed by, Asrid's orientation. And a lot of that is because, it's not, sex is merely a part of the discussion, but it's not real. This story is not like 50 Shades of Grey. It's not going into deep, intimate details about sex. It's just basically, it's just, this book is just basically a window into society, into our 21st century world, and the multifaceted elements that exist in our world. The fact that people from different backgrounds, from different nationalities, are coming together much easier than they used to, thanks to modern technology and transportation. However, despite the fact that even though this is bringing different people closer together, seems like old prejudices die hard. And however, so even though the prejudices are shown in this book as well, at the same time, what I'm trying to get at about the theme of friendship in this book is the fact that, Travis and Asrid meet a lot of different people during their travels through Europe. And then they meet each other, and even though they don't get along at first, eventually they become friends. And a lot of it is because, A, Travis realizes how horrible he was to Asrid, how rude he was, and how he treated her in a way that he never would have liked to have been treated. He also meets Juan, who had a sister who was a lesbian, and tells her what she went through, which was very difficult, and basically told him, the old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. Very true about people too. Can't judge people according to their names, their racial background. That's just one aspect of who they are. And so, once Travis comes to this realization, he becomes more acceptable to the idea of becoming friends. Now, of course, those of you who haven't read the book are wondering, why the hell would Asrid want to become friends with Travis after the fact that he just tore her apart verbally in front of everyone in this common room when they were staying at this hostel in Paris when they first met? How could she forgive someone like this? Well, he apologizes to her, but he also makes efforts, gesture-wise, to be her friend. And it also helps that Juan is a mediator, with making this friendship possible. And so therefore, their friendship formulates and they become closer. So much so that in the second book, which I'm working on right now, I have Asrid and Travis often refer to each other as like, they love each other like brother and sister. So, and as the series goes on, you will see this friendship develop even more. And basically, it's because both of them learn from each other. They know that, hey, Astrid's an original. Is an original individual person. Travis is an original individual person. They're living their lives how they want to, but yet they know when to come together with their similarities and just be friends there. And therefore both of them kind of gain, well, Travis gains a lot more tolerance. Asrid was definitely a lot more tolerant than Travis was, but Asrid really changes Travis's life forever. In fact, I feel that Travis makes Asrid. Astrid makes Travis a better person. It's the other way around. Excuse me. Astrid makes Travis a better person. Because of the fact that she opened his eyes to a world that he didn't really know anything about, and he just, and she was just one amongst many friends that he meets along the way that changes her. That changes him. And Asrid herself, she, actually this helps her heal a little bit because of the fact that Travis was strong enough, and you notice I'm using the word strong enough, not man enough. He had he was strong enough. He had the courage to go up to her with Juan's support and tell her, listen, I realized I was wrong to you in Paris. Sorry. I can understand why you would never want to forgive me, but listen, I realized I was wrong, and can we be friends? And she's willing to take it up, and little by little they become friends, and through their mutual friend Juan, it helps them to not only discover their friendship together, but also to Juan's friendship with Travis. And so really, as you can see from just this example that I've taken from the book, is that it's the development of the friends that Travis and Astrid make, not only with each other but also throughout the book apart from each other, is a journey, and that the journey is not the journey towards becoming friends is not always easy. It's not always immediately, hey, I like you, I really want to hang out with you and do stuff with you. Like with Travis and Asrid, they hated each other at first. And that sometimes happens. Sometimes people don't like each other when they first meet. And then they get to know each other and they realize, you know what? This person's great. My life is so much fuller with this person in my life. And that sometimes you just have to forgive. Of course you should think, you should use common sense, but basically one thing I'm trying to show is that forgiveness can be actually a good thing, and in the case for Travis and Asrid, it was a good thing. So let me see if I can read a sample of one of the blog entries I created for Asrid in the book. The one that I'm going to read is dated July 18th, 2013. Asrid is in Odense, Denmark. And the reason why she has gone to Odense, Denmark is that basically I've made her a huge fan of Hans Christian Andersen. And Hans Christian Andersen was born there. So anyways, here's this sample chapter from the book, Through the Eyes of Asrid. Asrid, July 18th, 2013, Odense, Denmark. For the past 6 days, I have been sightseeing with my new friends James and Tyler. On July 15th, we took a bus to visit Journal der Landesbahn, which is a village built reconstructed like those during the Iron Age. On July 16th, the three of us, we went to Kunstallen Brunts, which is a modern art gallery that focuses on Scandinavian artists. We also visited the Museet for Fotokunst, which is connected to the museum and features a lot of temporary and permanent exhibits of modern photography. This reminds me, I've heard back from Claudia and the gang back in Copenhagen. They're all doing well. Each of them are working on new projects, including Charles, who was ever working on his paintings of all of us, as inspired by that afternoon on the beach. I also heard from Cho Hee and Bei. They had a lovely week in Oslo. They visited all the sites I recommended them and more, and they just arrived in Bergen yesterday. Now I digress back to July 16th. We finished that day by visiting a park called Munkamosa. Yesterday we visited the Carl Nielsen Museet, which is a museum dedicated to one of Denmark's most renowned composers, Carl Nielsen. It's worth the visit because admission is free, and it's a very informative little museum about Nielsen's work and life. After the Carl Nielsen Museet, we went to visit Odense's 14th century cathedral, Sankt Kunz Kirke, as well as the city's eldest cathedral, Vor Frøy Kirke, which dates back to the 13th century. We finished our day touring Nedergade, which is an interesting cobblestone street with lots of leaning buildings and some interesting antique shops. In regards to what I did today, I will admit absolutely nothing. I just hung out at the hostel and begun to pack and do research regarding what I would do next. Tyler and James were going to stay in Odense for a little longer. However, we decided to meet in Hamburg, Germany a week from now. Therefore, I began to debate whether or not I should just head to Germany now, or if I should visit one more city in Denmark. Well, I'm not going to worry about that right now. James and Tyler have invited me to join them for dinner, so I need to get ready to go do that now. So this is good night for now. That's the end of that particular section. So, and now I'm going to close this segment. I hope you enjoyed this particular episode of my YouTube channel, and of this character profile series of one of my characters, Asrid Lotick, and also that hopefully maybe this has piqued your interest in reading the Adventures of Travis and Asrid. So once again, this is what the book looks like. You can get it at on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com. I've also seen it available like at the HarvardBookstore.com, BooksandBooks.com. A lot of look in your independent bookstores. And there's also a Kindle version available, which is far cheaper. It's 50% off. It's $6 in comparison to the $12 price of the paperback. Um, and For information about me, my books, and my appearances, stay tuned to this YouTube channel. Go visit my website at www.danielleswisherauthor.webs.com, or you can check out my Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Danielle Swisher Author. And of course, there's a lot of information about me on Amazon. Um, so, anyways, thank you so much for viewing, and we'll keep in touch. Have a nice day. Bye.